Hey everyone, so today I'm going to teach you how to make this. Okay, so first things first are the starting assets. I'm using Castle Ruins, Forest Path, European Hornbeam, Nordic Coast Collections, and Ground Cover Foliage. This will be the only paid one, not necessary for this tutorial. You can use decals through Quixel, but this is what I'm using. Cool, so let's get started. If you want to know how to get to here after opening an Unreal project, just go up to here to new level and then click basic, which will open up this. So now we can go up here, change the speed. Yours is probably already at 4. Close out the lighting, and then I'm going to delete the floor, go up here to the top left to landscape, and let's make a new landscape. We can change this to 25 scale and click create. So now you have a nice big landscape. After that, let's bring in our first main asset. If you go up into this and click static mesh, it'll filter for all of your static meshes. So I am looking for the cliff, which will be this one. We can go back to this mode, click on the cliff, and then if you click W, E, and R, that's how I'm switching between all of these different ones. This one will help move up and down, this one will turn left and right, and this one will enlarge in either direction, so you can warp it, that kind of thing. Cool. So I'm going to use this side. And then the other thing I want to do is actually bring in a skeletal mesh. Cool. This way I can see how big of an area I'm using. Cool. So now the next thing we want to do is bring in the gate. So I'm going to go back to static mesh on content. There we go. And I'm going to bring in the gate, and always make sure that Nanite is enabled. It's just going to save you on a lot of memory, make your life easier. There we go. Pull it in, pull it back. And then the next thing we want are the staircase that's going to lead up to it. I want the 4. Again, make sure Nanite is enabled. Just assume that I'm doing this on every single one, even whether you see it or not. Cool, and then just to make sure that it is normal, so you can imagine it's probably very small for real humans, so I'm just gonna make it a little larger. And then with that, we can get rid of our mannequin. After we do that, let's bring in the pillars. Awesome. Now the next thing we do is need to make a hole into the mesh. So to do that, we are going to go up into this little area right here and click shapes. For some reason it spawned in the middle. Just make it bigger to how big you want it to be. So you definitely want it to be a little less wide. There we go, that works. And then let's make it a little longer. Let's just make sure it's not peeking through on the other end. White, no white, perfect. So now we can click on the box we just made, go to the static mesh, and then let's go over to modeling. Then we can click on mesh bool, Once you click on Mesh Bool, you can use this opacity to see what you're deleting. So this would be incorrect. You can always switch this, depends on how it shows up. So it's going to delete this. And then if you wait a little second for it to load, it'll show you exactly what you're getting yourself into. There you go. So it's going to delete this black box out of this. So click accept. Perfect. And now you have a little cave entrance. Cool. So now let's set up the camera. So go back to selection, and then we can go down to cinematic and do Cinecamera Actor. And if you right click on it, you can do pilot camera. And I'm going to move it back and try and establish an angle that I want. This is close to it. If we go into the camera settings, let's change this over to DSLR. And then we can change you to maybe 24 and get a little closer. Try and establish the actual angle we want to work with. I think this works. And then, yeah, we're set. So I'm going to make a new folder just because I like to keep everything clean and name this Cinema. Let's definitely rename that. And we're set. I'm going to move the camera in the Cinema. And then click this little button to eject out of following the camera, and we're good to go. So I'm going to pin this right here and start building out the rest of the rocks. Okay, cool. So now that that is done, I'm going to create a cube again. I'm going to use this to block out the piece of the sun that we want to block. So this can just be the X and Y. Let's make you quite large, bring you up into the sky. Cool. So now we can go back to the landscape and just slightly rough it up a bit. So I have it in Sculpt. The tool strength is 0.06, brush size is 250, and the brush fall off is 0.5. And I'm just going to very gently just uneven the ground so it looks a little more natural. Cool. Now that that is done, we create our blend material. So we can go into contact, click on material. Let's name this blend material ground and open it up. Now, before we get started, I need to show you what I'm going to be using so you can download it. So I usually switch to unlit. The reason I switch to unlit is because I always get lag on Quixel. So if you get lag on Quixel, switch to unlit. If you don't get lag on Quixel Bridge, then skip that step. So this is Quixel Bridge. If you go to Window, you can click, that's Quixel Bridge, it'll pop up. And I'm going to be using, this is already in local, but if you type it in, you can find it. So I'm going to be using this. Mossy Flagstone Floor, and then I'll be using Forest Floor right here, and Fallen Leaf Gravel right here. Also, if you see that I'm using assets that you don't have from the packs I've told you to download, it's because I'm also using Quixel assets. You can find them here. Just search up rocks or gravel and find some assets that you feel like work and download them. So once you download these three, bring them into your blend material. So now that they're all in, let's start aligning these. Let's right click, landscape coordinate, and then S click to get a parameter node. We'll just call this M1. And then M click to get a multiply node. You're going to put these two together. And then on the other end, let's do right click, make material attributes. And now we're going to be copying these 3 times. Sweet. Like that. And then we can move you right here. And we're going to be attaching all of these into the UVs. And then taking this one, going to base color, this will go into normal, and this will go into roughness. And just do this with every single one. Make sure that when you're going through each one and doing M2, M3, and then let's change the default of every single one to 1. Perfect. Now, once you're done connecting everything, we're going to go over here, right click and do layer blend. It'll be called landscape layer blend. And we're going to do plus, plus, plus 3 times. And then let's name each one of these layers. So this is going to be top. It's going to be mid. And this one is going to be bottom. Once that's done, we will plug each single material layer in. And then we're going to do break material attributes. Plug this one in. And then from here, we can go across and just plug each of the same ones we've been using into the blend material. And we're set. So it's going to look all crazy. Don't worry. Click apply, save, close. Right click on the blend material, go to create material instance, click OK, click on the material instance, click on material instance, click on the landscape, and click this little arrow. That's going to upload the craziness. Now you're going to go up to landscape, right click, do weighted blend layer, save, weighted blend layer, save, and weighted blend layer, save. Now you can click on the blend material, open each of these, and this is going to change the size of each one individually. I do already know that 0.2 is kind of what I'm working with, but feel free to change this for what you want. Save and reset. Perfect. Now let's go over here and fill this room up. So I'm going to click material instance and materials, and then leave landscape mode for a second. And let's see what we want to throw in here. Let's do castle walls. How crazy is this gonna look? Does it look good? Yeah, a little stretch, but we're gonna actually bring in our own stuff to finish this area off. So as long as it blends in for now, we're good. So now we're done doing that. Let's go back to static meshes, and now we're gonna bring in our bricks. So I'm gonna bring in this little guy and use him for the top half. And then I'm gonna bring in this one to use in for all the corners. So for this one, we can make him quite large, because he's going to be filling up the wall that we're not really going to be seeing. If you want it to be a little more perfect, you can always do that, but for our purposes, this should be fine. So right now, instead of making it perfect, I'm just gonna get all the material out. So I'm just gonna keep copying the brick until it's exactly what I want. So now I'm gonna go about rearranging these bricks so it looks more natural and actually lays correctly on top. Cool, that looks good. And yeah. Okay, so next let's actually paint the ground. So let's go back to landscape and we're gonna use our layers. So everything is already kind of set up and now you can paint. This is really just an iterative process, so have fun with it and just play around. I'm personally going for a forest path, so you're gonna see me try and make that right now. Now we can add in our little point light. I've got a selection, click on our point light, and let's bring it into perfect. Let's change you to be a dark red or orange, and let's bring the overall strength of our light probably down to 3, and we can even change the attenuation radius so we can see how far it glows. Let's maybe just do 2000. Perfect. So now that that's done, I'm going to bring in some rock formations that we can use for the ground. So this is forest ground, and this is the dry riverbed. I'm really just gonna bring all these in and see what works the best. I don't think we're gonna use that one. No, not that one either. What else we got? We got the rock assemblies that we can use and the forest ground. So let's see how these mesh together. So first I'm going to make them both pretty big. Let's add some rocks into the mix. How does that look? That look real? Then we can click everything in here and start to use it as our main asset. So I'm going to go back to the camera, click it on so I can use it. So now that that is done, we can start to play around with our ground. All right, now let's go to foliage. Static meshes, and we're gonna add in everything that we can use. So let's take the rocks, let's do some branches, let's do some weeds. Now I'm going to go back up to Cinema. I'll do this in selection mode and re-engage the camera. Go back over to foliage, and the first thing I'm going to do is put some trees down. So we can click on everything, uncheck it, and then only go for the trees and check those. I'll actually do some bushes too. So I'm going to click on the trees, and we want this to be, I want them to be a little smaller, so you can change the min and max scale to a little less. And let's also reduce the density. Let's go with 0.01. See what we get there. Just one tree. Let's really just try and get things to occur. Let's do 0.05. Cool. So now that we have the trees in, I'm going to go to erase and just make some little changes. I'm okay with one of these. Let's get rid of you. I like the tree actually in that corner. Cool. So now we can do some bushes. So let's get rid of the trees. Let's get rid of the bushes, and we can click on these two and engage these two. Let's get some little weeds going. Increase the paint density and get started. Cool. So now that you have all your foliage down and the world you have is a little populated, we are on to the very last step, which is the lighting. So I'm going to save one more time. And then this time I'm going to go in and let's change the directional light a little. No, I want it to be peeking in. There we go. I want to be just slicing it. Perfect. And then let's go into exponential fog. We can change the fog density up to as high as it goes. Then we can go down to volumetric fog, and we can also make you a 9. And not a 9. What do we want to do? And then the other one that we should be doing is adding in a volume. We're going to type in bounds for the volume and click it. This will make sure it's affecting the entire scene. The next thing we want to do is exposure. And then we go down to this min and max EV. I'm going to make this -5. And then exposure compensation, let's make it -1. Cool. So the last bit is creating the light shaft. So let's go into here. Go into contract drawer, and we are going to make our light shaft. So right click, go to material, and let's name this light shaft. If you're a little laggy, feel free to go to unlit mode. It's going to help you move a little more smoothly, less things for the computer to process. But as you can see, the camera is still going to be seeing with the light being processed real time. Cool. So that's done. Let's open up the light shaft and open up all the way. So first, let's right click and do a texture coordinate. And we can do a parameter node, and let's call this, oh, didn't like that. And let's call this cloud size. And then right under it, we can do a time node, and then S-click again for a parameter node and call this time multiplier. If I spell things wrong, don't judge me. We can do a multiply on both of these, and then we're gonna go into a panner. Now we're gonna bring in our texture. If you listened to me in the very beginning and included starter content, this should pop up. I don't know if it pops up without starter content, but either way, it's called Perlin Noise. Type it in. Yeah, it's part of starter content. It says it right there. And bring it in. We're going to copy and paste. So we have 2. And let's start connecting things here. So cloud noise into multiply. Coordinate for the coordinate, and then time for the time, and we're going to actually connect these two. So top one's going to coordinate, bottom one's going to time, and then both of these are going into the UVs. Now we're going to do one more parameter. Let's call this cloud contrast. And then let's do a texture base, or sorry, a power node. So let's do power, and reset. Let's do one more add, And then there's going to be multiply later on, but right now this should work. So we're going to put in the exponent. Either of these are going to go in together, and they're both going to go into the add. Now we can move backwards and add in actual numbers for the parameters. Time multiplier, we can do default of 1. And then cloud contrast, we can do 3. And cloud size, we can do 1. So 1, 1, 3. And then for this, I'm just going to do negative 0.1, negative 0.06, oh, negative 0.006, and then negative, sorry, 0.1, and then this one can be, no, negative 0.06. Sorry, again, just 0.06, no negative. Cool. Now highlight, press C, and let's name this cloud noise. And you're set. Then you can move all of it across. Next one, further fades. Let's do, so we got pixel depth. Then we're going to do a parameter node called depth fade distance. And then let's do right click and do divide. And then saturate. And we're set there. So let's add all these in. And the depth fade distance will be 1024. We'll name this depth fade. Now let's do the emissive color. We're going to do a vector parameter and a parameter node. Call this one color intensity. Let's do a multiply node, and then we can just sit pretty like this and plug all these in. You are going to be made into pure white, and then color intensity's default value will be 20. Do another multiply node and plug you in, but let's just do you, C, and name you emissive color. Cool. Now we are on to the very last section. So we're going to do one multiply right here, bring you guys in together, and then get started on the last section. So let's do a parameter node, and we're going to call this geo depth faded distance. Let's do a depth fade. Saturate. And then let's plug everything in. The next one is going to be another parameter node, and we're going to call this different cell exponent, and then a vertex normal WS, and bring that into a Fresnel exponent, normal and normal. Then you are going to be a 1 minus, and then 1 minus is going into a remap value range, where we're going to do a constant, copy paste the constant, and then 2 parameter nodes. The first one is going to be Fresnel min, Fresnel max, and then you are going to be 1. And we'll add all of you in one at a time. And then you are going to go to a saturate, create a saturate, and a multiply. So you and you. Cool. Now for the end, we're going to go over here. You're going to be surface, you're going to be translucent, and you are going to be unlit. And then I'm going to plug you into opacity, you into emissive color, and bring the saturate over into you. Now the Fresnel exponent will be 0.3. The geodepth fade distance can be 1000. Let's highlight, click C, and call this further fades. And then the Fresnel min will be 0.2, and the Fresnel max will be 0.5. Actually, Fresnel min will be 0. And there you go. Apply, save. Now what we're going to be doing is adding in cylinders. So let's go up here and go into shapes again, and let's do cylinders. And we're going to make just giant cylinders. Now we can take you, and I'm kind of just going to throw these in shining areas to give a nice little bit of emphasis on where light is. And then now we're going to go up to the content. Let's change you over to a material instance so we can make grand changes to everything. And let's add in. And as you can see, we now have some light beams coming down, because light beams are really just fog. And we can adjust the actual angle, how fast it's moving, all that different stuff, how much contrast it has. So now I can actually click on it, double click on the instance, and make some changes. So the cloud size can be smaller. I actually kind of like it bigger, but let's change the contrast to maybe 2. That's 5. There we go. That looks a little better. And the time multiplier, let's maybe make you 0.5. So it moves nice and slow. And then now with it moving slow, it doesn't bring as much attention to itself, so I can maybe go back to 2. 4. Save. And there you go. You now have custom light beams in your scene. Just to make this a little more interesting, I'm actually going to move you closer in. Perfect. So now on to the actual scene. So you can do this however you want. I'll just teach it really quick so you can animate your scene and get something out of it. I'm going to bring the cylinders into lighting actually, along with the post-processing volume. Let's open Cinema, go over here and do add level sequence. Click here, and we'll just call this level 3 sequence. Save. Bring it in here. And then all you want to do is add in your camera right here. Perfect. So you can have your camera set. This is how I have it set at the very beginning. We can change it to lit so we can see what we're looking at. If you go down here, you just added a keyframe on transform. Now, if I move the playhead all the way over here and move the camera in any way I wish, and then click this again, you'll see that the camera is following the movement that I just showed you. And you can also increase down here. So this is now going to be 500 frames long, and then I can increase this. Oh. Drag it across to say here. Move you across. Then I can also go like this. Now you have a nice slow movement heading into your scene. The other thing you can do is also add camera shake. I already have a camera shake. I'll show you exactly what I'm using though. So let's do shake 2 for now. And so when you make camera shake, you can also do this. So it's nice and subtle. But let's show you the shake. So this is all the different stuff. This one's 0, so let's make you 0.5. Compile, save, bring you down, and see how it changes the actual shake of the camera. So I want mine to be very subtle, so I have it at 0, but I'll teach you how to make this right now. So first of all, I'm just going to show you how to make it, but if you want the exact same camera shake I have, you can look at this right now and use these parameters. However, if you want to make it, you can just click right here, go to Blueprint class, click down on all classes, type in shake, and you just want to find base camera shake or default camera shake base. Actually, sorry, camera shake base. Select. Name it whatever you want. Shaky. Oh, autosave. Cool, it's just called shake. Click on it, bring it down, click on it again, and then go to Perlin noise. And this will give you all the parameters that I'm using. So just change these around to however you like. And the only thing I need to tell you is for the duration, always make it 0. That basically tells the software that it's infinite, so you can pull it for as long as you want to. If it's only at 1 second, it only lasts 1 second, it gets a little frustrating. But yeah, so that's how you make the camera shake. And then if you didn't see earlier, you just click on your actual camera component, go to camera shake, and your shakes will all be here. Cool. So now that that's done, if you want to export your project, which everyone does, you can go to right here to Movie Render Queue. If you don't have Movie Render Queue, go to Window, go to Edit, Plugins, type in Movie, find Movie Render Queue, click on it. There's gonna be a little restart button at the bottom right, click that, and once it reloads, you'll be perfect. So open up, make sure it's clicked, and click on your clapperboard, bring this in, and then I have a preset right here, but you want to bring in, click on settings and bring in .exr, anti-aliasing, and then console variables. These are all the console variables right here. I will actually have this preset up to download. I don't know if it works on other Unreal projects. I think it has to be 5.1, which is what I'm using right now. So if that is the case and you want all my console variables, here they are for you to screenshot and use. If not, I encourage you to download my preset and try and use that, since it'll just save you time from typing all this out. But yeah, so this is all the console presets, and then go into anti-aliasing and do spatial sample count 32, temporal sample count 6. You can switch these around. Usually if it's more foggy, you would want a higher spatial count. There's reasons why you'd want either or, but if you put both to 6, you'll have a great project. And then override anti-aliasing .exr, and then you go to your output. Output's right here, wherever file you want it to be in, the actual file sequence name you want it to be in, and then the resolution. For me, I'm doing 256 and 1440. And then click accept and go to render local, and you're set to go. Hope you guys like the tutorial. Like, subscribe, and leave a comment if you have any questions.